Hello and welcome, fifth grade friends and family. This is Miss Fields here, and I'm joining you for our 10th episode of Math Toolbox. Tonight we're going to be examining how to accurately add and subtract decimals. And this is going to use several skills, including place value, addition, subtraction, regrouping, and an understanding of inverse operations, as well as how to analyze a word problem. So the skill of adding and subtracting decimals is going to synthesize a lot of skills that we have learned in previous instructional videos, as well as in class. So let's get started. So typically, whenever our fifth graders are going to encounter a word problem, it's going to look something like this. Just for the sake of adding in extra skills, on the bottom part of our word problem, we've added an additional component where we will be rounding the decimal. So the problem says, Halloween pumpkins cost $1.67 at the pumpkin patch. Mrs. Federico wants to buy 2 pumpkins. She pays with a $5 bill. How much change will she receive? Round her change to the nearest tenths place. So immediately in my fifth grade mind, I'm thinking, okay, I see a word problem. I'm not sure what operation I'm using next. I'm going to need to use UKT. In addition, I'm also thinking that I need to separate my work into a foursquare. So this is what I mean by foursquare. Foursquare is an instructional way that we organize our work, where in the top left corner we have our word at problem analysis, which is UKT, units, keywords, and total. In our top right corner we have solve, where you do your work. Bottom left corner we use our understanding of inverse operations to check our solution. And in the bottom right corner we actually state our solution, answering the word problem question. So starting with our UKT word problem analysis, I'm immediately going to be looking at the units. So I see that my units are not after the number, they're actually before it, and they're represented with this symbol, the dollar symbol. So I know that both of my units are matching, dollars and dollars. I know that if my units are matching, immediately that I can eliminate multiplication and division. And my problem is probably going to be using either addition or subtraction to solve it successfully. So my next step is I'm going to be looking through my word problem for keywords. So one word that I see that immediately brings to my mind a particular operation is buy. So anytime that I buy something, I know that I'm subtracting money from my bank account. So I know I'm definitely going to be doing subtraction in this word problem. However, I'm also seeing that there's 2 pumpkins. If there's 2 pumpkins, that means I need to add this amount twice in order to get the total cost that I'm going to be paying for my pumpkins. I know though with my T, I'm not going to be looking for the total, so I'm going to move on to the solve section. So one of the things that we say in 5th grade is place values, line them up. So I know that I'm adding $1.67 twice because I'm buying, actually Mrs. Federico is buying 2 pumpkins. So place values, line them up. I've lined up my hundredths place, I've lined up my tenths place, and I've lined up my ones place perfectly. The decimals are right on top of each other. I'm ready to begin. My first step is to add my hundredths place. I know that 7 plus 7 is 14, so I carry the 1. I know that 6 plus 6 is 12, plus 1 is 13, so I put down my 3 and I carry the 1. I also make sure that I bring down this decimal. And last but not least, I add 1 plus 1 plus 1, which is 3. So far, I've got $3.34. However, I know looking over here at my keyword section that I've taken care of one part of the word problem. There's still more to come. I need to find out now how much money will Mrs. Federico receive. We're going to get that by subtracting this total sum by the amount of money that she actually brought to the store. Now, one quick thing that I want to note that fifth graders a lot of the time get confused about is if you see a whole number, where is the decimal? So as you can see up here, the decimal after in whole numbers is always after the ones place. So if I've got 5 ones, I know that my decimal is right after it. Another thing that I want to point out is that when you have a decimal, any zero after the decimal does not add or subtract value from the number. So I could add a million of these zeros right after the 5, right after the decimal, and it would not change the value. So my first step is, I see that I can't subtract the 4 from the 0. I need to borrow. However, when I go next door, I see another 0. So I have to go to the last place value available, which is our ones place. I'm going to borrow, make that 5 into a 4. This 0 becomes a 10, however, it gets borrowed from and becomes a 9. And then this 0 becomes a 10. After that, I subtract 4 from 10, and I get 6. I subtract 9 from 3 and get 6 as well. And then I subtract 4 from 3 and get 1. My amount, or Mrs. Federico's amount, that she will receive after paying for her 2 pumpkins will be $1.67. However, I only have 2 of my boxes filled out in my Foursquare. I know now that in order for me to make sure that my work is precise, I need to check my solution. So I need to use the inverse operation. So I look immediately, what was the operation that I used? It was subtraction. So I know down here I'm going to be using addition to double check my work. Now, the thing that fifth graders get confused on is, okay, I know I need to add, but what numbers am I adding? You're going to definitely use the answer to your subtraction problem, the difference, as one of the numbers. And what I like to do is I like to look right above whatever the difference is, and that is the number that I'm going to be adding together. So the addition problem that we get is $1.66 plus $3.34. Place values, line them up, hundredths place, tenths place, ones place, all aligned. Decimals perfectly aligned as well. I know that if I'm using my inverse operation, which is addition, my sum should be $5 because that's originally what Mrs. Federico had. Add the 6 together, get 10. Put down the 0, carry the 1. Add the 6 and the 3 together, plus 1 is a 10. Put down the 0, carry the 1. 3 plus 1 is 4, plus 1 is 5. I got $5, which tells me that I subtracted correctly. My checked work, the inverse operation, has provided me with evidence to suggest that I have in fact subtracted precisely. Moving on to stating the solution, I remember the last part of my word problem, which is round her change to the nearest tenths place. Now we have a little rhyme that we kind of use to help us remember what to do. So whenever we round, we say first we identify the place value. So the place value that they're asking us to round to is the tenths. So first we identify the place value. Then the number to the right must be found. 5 or more, round up. Less than 5, round down. So using that rhyme, I identify the place value, which is the tenths place. The digit is 6. Then the number to the right must be found. That's the hundredths place, also a 6. 5 or more, round up. Less than 5, round down. I'm seeing that the 6 is greater than 5, so I will be rounding up. If I round up, I know that that digit in the tenths place is going to increase by 1 digit, and any digits to the right of that become 0. My rounded amount becomes $1.70. So in stating that in a complete solution, I know that Mrs. Federico will receive $1.70 from the cashier if her change is rounded to the nearest tenths place. Thank you again for joining me for our 10th episode of Math Toolbox. If there's any skills in here that have confused you or maybe you need a refresh on, go back to the other instructional videos on UKT, as well as comparing place values, more than one decimal, and ordering them from least to greatest, and it will make this video make even more sense. Thank you again for listening, and I can't wait to see you all on Monday.